Alright, so this is the recap for the week of October 6th through October 10th. It's a little late, but I'm getting it done regardless. So I'm just going to cut to the chase right now. I'm going to scroll down to the expectations here. Nothing. There were no trades that were supposed to be taken at all. No setups showed within the session. Now, I ended up taking one, which I actually should have this red. This is -2. This is over 2. Let me update that real quick. So I did it again. I broke my rules. This time though, it wasn't consciously. It happened so fast that I almost was unable to do anything. So going into TradingView here, I showed up to the market a little early and I was preparing myself, trying to get the live stream running and whatnot. I couldn't figure it out on my new laptop that I've never connected to the live stream with, and I saw this setup. Now, everything looks good about this setup except for the fact that it gave an entry before the session started. This entry right here was at 8:25, right? Now, when a setup gives an entry that is before the session, I have to wait for another entry confirmation. This is what the trade looked like. I would have had to wait for another strong bullish close above the 13 EMA after this 825 candle. What did I do? I entered close of the 825 candle at 830 because it was at a discount. Now, in theory, this is a good idea. If you already have a setup you're a little late to and you get a better entry, you take it. But this is not following my rules. My rules say if there is no entry within the session, there is no entry, there is no trade. So I took this trade instead right here, and I immediately lost. I realized after the fact, shouldn't have taken it in the first place. But what happened is I placed my stop loss where I was supposed to place it, and I accidentally placed another buy order. So when it hit my stop loss, I got into another contract, and I lost even more money. Candle just kept going down. So it was about right here, a couple points below my stop loss. And I closed immediately because what else am I going to do? I'm not just going to sit there and wait for it to hit my daily loss limit. So I have to, in these moments, close all my positions. And so I did that, and instead of losing $600, I was down, I don't know, 900 or something. So obviously that makes me annoyed. Now immediately, and when I say immediately, I mean within 2 seconds after I closed all of those positions and got out for that $800 loss, I pressed sell, sell, sell. 3 contracts, all in a sell, and the candle literally just retraced half of a point or something, like 4 ticks. Bam, account liquidated, daily loss limit met. I'm not allowed to trade for the rest of the day. All within about 10 seconds. This is me admitting to that in my recap for that day. Everything happened so fast. I realized right after it all happened, I had no emotions. All of the anger that was momentarily inside my body the second that I pressed those sell orders was gone. I only had emotions for a split second, and I acted upon those emotions before I could even think about the decision that I was going to make. That is a bad habit, and I need to break that bad habit. Usually, the other times that I've liquidated my account, the other times that I've just gambled, essentially, I was at least somewhat aware that I was about to make those decisions. Usually, I'm conscious. I usually acknowledge that I'm about to break my rules. I usually say, I'm about to break my rules, or I'm angry right now, or I really want to sell and I know I shouldn't. Whether I say that out loud or in my head, that happens. Well, this time I didn't even have time to do any of that. It was 5 seconds between, not even 5 seconds. It was like 2 seconds between closing the position, sell, sell, sell. So afterwards, in my emotionless state, since all of my anger was already gone, I decided, okay, it's time to take a break from trading for a bit and restructure my system. So I did not trade Friday, which there was no setup to take on Friday, no loss there. But I talked to a couple friends and I consulted ChatGPT for some answers. It kind of outlined a framework for me, and I really like where ChatGPT is going with its explanation and how to go about fixing this problem. You need to create friction in your environment. Discipline is obviously a hard characteristic to master and have consistently. No human is perfect. Even the most disciplined traders will make a mistake here or there. It's unavoidable. It's just how do you react to those decisions? How do you react to those thoughts and emotions? But one thing you can do is create friction in your environment to make it harder to make those destructive decisions. And that's kind of what ChatGPT here is referring to. So it's basically saying that emotional reactions usually happen first before your brain has time to process what just happened and actually come up with logical reasonings for it. It kind of breaks it down into three different types of friction: motor, cognitive, and environmental. As it stands right now, I don't really have much friction in my system, and I am realizing that this is a big problem. I have cognitive friction in my checklist, so that would be considered the cognitive friction. I have to decide what are the confluences that I need to see before I can enter a trade. But the motor friction and the environmental friction are not really there. The motor friction being mostly what's stopping my body from going and pressing this button. I usually have time to think and acknowledge that I'm about to break my rules, then I break them. This time there was no time. And the environmental friction is this is friction you enforce upon yourself using the systems at place, so in this case, technology. And it wasn't until I started talking to ChatGPT about this that I realized Tradovate is not a platform that I can enforce friction with. I have learned that Tradovate is pretty dated as a trading platform. There's not a lot of customizability. There's not a lot of shortcuts and features that other platforms have, and I'm now realizing I need to switch platforms if I want to use those features. Which this could be untrue to some extent, but regardless, I've seen videos of people using NinjaTrader, and I know some of this is definitely true. So time session lockout. Supposedly I can have a custom checklist pop up on the screen next to the chart, which was something that I was always trying to do on TradingView, but I could never find the right indicator. I know there's lots more hotkey customizations in NinjaTrader, but the idea is I want to avoid hotkeys. I want to avoid the simplicity and the ease of access to trading. I want to make it a little bit harder, create that friction, if you will. How does that look? Well, it basically means how many obstacles can I put between me wanting to take a trade and me taking that trade. So this typically comes in the form of the platform asking, are you sure you want to take this trade? Maybe instead of having the buy button right next to the chart, have it be a right click, scroll down, and then enter buy at this price point, and then I have to say yes, I want to take this trade. It's creating multiple levels of confirmation to where your brain has to basically make that decision multiple times. So you really do have to acknowledge every decision that you make a little harder. Now, I've played with NinjaTrader a bit since all of the figuring out all of this, and I definitely like what I see so far, but I do need to get used to the platform, so I will probably be using a free trial while I trade on NinjaTrader. And now the one last thing I want to talk about how I'm going to approach fixing this problem is the cognitive slash motor friction. Last week when I broke my rules, I decided that I needed to have some way of identifying my emotions before I take a trade, or if I have any emotions in the first place. I needed to take a deep breath. I needed to write down if I was sighing really heavily or maybe dozing off or whatever it may be, but I need to back test like that too. So I think I've decided I'm going to backtest in a specific way that will create a bodily and mental reaction that I want every time I am thinking about entering a trade. So for example, I'm going to backtest my strategy, and every single time that a setup shows, I'm going to take a deep breath, evaluate my emotions, and then press the buy button. This way it will create a muscle memory so that every single time I take a trade, I need to take that deep breath. And that deep breath will signal my brain to be aware and acknowledge any emotions that I have therefore lessening the extent of those emotions if they do happen to be present. This is definitely a little easier said than done. I'm basically going to have to rewire my brain so I can have some obstacle between me and pressing that buy button with no logic behind it. Now, I am a little conflicted as to what I'm going to trade in the next coming weeks. I do still have my account at my funded futures that I paid for, and there's 1 week left before it expires. Now, it's basically at the max drawdown, but I do have a free reset, which I could technically use for $0. If that reset did not exist, then I would be canceling the account and I would just be trading NinjaTrader on the free trial. But because this reset exists, the opportunist in me is really telling me to take advantage of that and at least trade the free account that could end up getting me money. But at the same time, I would have to trade it on Tradovate, which is quite the opposite of what I'm trying to do here. So I'm going to think about that over the weekend. I don't think I'm trading this week. It's already, what is it? It's Wednesday today, and I haven't traded. But I'm definitely going to reflect on this and really establish how I'm going to move forward. But those are the main points. I need to create friction, use NinjaTrader. It will help me create that friction, and then backtest specifically so I can create that cognitive and motor friction. At the end of the day, I will not let my emotions be the reason that I don't succeed at this.